Updating consumer rights for the 21st century, adapting those rights to the shift from bricks and mortar shops to online shopping, a market that's growing by leaps and bounds. Hello and welcome, I'm Gemma Slaymaker and this is People First, the programme that focuses on issues and questions in the European Parliament which directly affect people like you and I. Also on the programme, ensuring a more efficient and fairer retail market, and the European Parliament's efforts to get the 112 emergency number operational across all 27 EU member states. Joining us to discuss these consumer issues is the point man behind the effort in the EPP Group, Andreas Schwab. Mr. Schwab, welcome to the programme. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Nice to meet you.
Let's begin with our first report, which is really the centrepiece of the reform, the Consumer Rights Directive. And this is a draft law which you've been heavily involved in, and it was recently given the green light by the Parliament. Let's take a further look.
Cross-border online shopping has exploded in recent years, showing how increasingly important the single market has become for many Europeans. Last year, for the first time, more than half Europe's consumers bought goods or services on the internet. European law needs to catch up with that. The current legal fragmentation acts as a deterrent for both consumers and businesses from engaging in cross-border trade. Justice Commissioner Viviane Reding, an EPP Group member, says it's taken far too long to modernize the law she hopes will get final approval by July.
I must say, with all benches agreeing that we need to have a better, more constructive, a more efficient consumer rights directive than we have today.
The Parliament's draftsman, or rapporteur, on the Consumer Rights Directive is the EPP Group's Andreas Schwab. In his report, a compromise approved across party lines in Parliament, he sought a unified set of rules, in particular in the cross-border online market. Among the proposed rules, one order, one price. Traders will have to disclose all costs and fees at the outset. Limelight for small print. A vendor must inform the consumer of all important details. A rip-off guard, a separate button to click on a website to confirm the consumer understands that a service ordered is at his or her own expense. And withdrawal rights, that a consumer has 2 weeks to withdraw from a purchase, including from an online auction. All of them measures aimed at boosting consumer confidence in shopping online.
So with this directive, you're trying to make it easier and safer for the consumer to shop online. However, as we'll see from our first Vox Pop question, people are not fully confident yet in online shopping. Let's take a look.
I'd like to know why, given that the internet shopping's advanced so much in the last sort of 10-15 years and is probably the way forward that most commercial shopping's going, why can't the courier companies tell you whether it's been delivered between 9 and 11 as opposed to before 5:30?
Quite right. I can completely understand his frustration. You cancel your plans for the day, you stay in just to wait for a delivery that's somewhere between 9 and 5. If online shopping is really the way forward, this problem has to be addressed. Are there any plans or proposals to improve this?
No, you are completely right. Online shopping can only work if the delivery is also harmonized and is done on a real European-wide basis. And here we are still confronted with the normal old set of Europe, with national carriers that have still their national schedules, and we have to overcome that because the market becomes more and more European.
The directive faces a bit of criticism. Not everybody is in favour. Some say that actually it will increase costs for consumers and the businesses, especially the small and medium-sized businesses. Is this right?
I would not say that this is correct, because the most important point on this legislation is trust, mutual trust. Consumer will shop much more online if they trust to the system as a whole, and SMEs will take the profit out of that in any case. So I think the most important point that we have to deal with is to improve trust in online shopping, and that's what we want to do with that directive.
We'll move on now to the second part of the consumer rights legislation at the other end of the scale, getting the retail markets to work better.
As with online shopping, retail shopping is also developed unevenly across the European Union. A resolution in Parliament recognizes that the retail sector plays a key role as a driver for growth, competitiveness and jobs in Europe. It wants to remove what it calls borders, barriers and burdens to trade. Anna Maria Corazza-Bildt of the EPP Group is the rapporteur of the resolution that, she says, rings an alarm bell on protectionism inside the European Union.
The wave of protectionism across Europe is worrying, and why should you have a toy that is already sold in one of the member states go to an extra test to be sold in another member state?
Some examples. That Dutch cheese must be repacked to be sold in France due to different rules on weight and size. That toys considered safe in the United Kingdom require extra tests in Germany. Chairs need a certificate against use for torture when sold in Italy. Beyond attacking protectionism, the resolution calls for greater price transparency and analysis of price differences in the European Union. It criticizes what it calls a fragmented payment system, calling on the European Commission to develop a truly Europe-wide system.
We really need to have an harmonized payment system throughout Europe, because the fragmentation creates extra fees and costs that at the end of the day are paid by the consumer.
The lawmakers are also demanding a crackdown on member states that don't play by the rules. The resolution calls on the Commission to speed up infringement procedures through what it calls a fast-track approach.
Now, there are plus sides and downsides to everything, and we've seen with online shopping that it gives you a lot of flexibility about when you can shop, which is the disadvantage for the retail shops themselves, as our second Vox Pop question highlights.
What measures can you think of that would help working families shop more conveniently, either on the weekend or in the evening?
Indeed, because in America, the shopping malls stay open very late and even open on Sundays. And this is starting to happen in some of the EU member states. I'm thinking particularly of Spain. You can shop until 10 o'clock at night. Is this something you see happening all over Europe with one single directive, or is that too far off?
This is more or less a local question where cities and local municipalities can decide when to open and how to open. In any case, towns will be much more funny and likely to be visited if there is a good shopping atmosphere. And that's also something what we care about.
Definitely. As a woman, I can say that's definitely true. It also maybe depends on the weather. I know in Spain it's a lot hotter, so you like to go shopping later. In Germany, it's not always the case.
Oh, we have also quite a good weather in the meanwhile.
We've had excellent weather, and talking about that, I'm going to come on to the subject now about Europeans planning their summer holidays, because when you go abroad, a question which concerns all Europeans is how can you receive emergency help wherever you are? Let's take a look at the third report.
Say your family has a medical emergency while on holiday in another European country. What number do you call? What languages can they speak? How fast will they respond? The EPP Group's Rosa Thun is shadow rapporteur of Parliament legislation aimed at improving the 112 emergency number service.
What we need in the European Union first is to inform the citizens that this number exists, that there is such a possibility, that they can feel safer when they travel. 112 is a number that is known to more or less 25% of European citizens. This is far too little, so we have to raise awareness.
A European Commission study this year says nearly all of the EU 27 require their phone operators to ensure access to the 112 number for police, fire and ambulance services. But say you need to use your mobile phone and your SIM card doesn't work in that country. That's not so easy. 7 member states don't allow SIM-free calls to 112.
We also have to improve the functioning of the number. We have to be able to locate the person that calls everywhere in Europe and also recognize a higher number of languages.
And how fast are emergency calls answered? Most countries report more than 90% in 20 seconds or less. But in what language? The study shows that if you don't speak English, it's often not easy to ask for help. French and German are spoken by services in about half the member states, Italian in 4 countries outside Italy. Something to check when you travel outside your home country.
So this is a fantastic idea which has been around for years, in fact, but as the MEP Rosa Thun pointed out, hardly anybody knows about it. There are a few other issues to do with the 112 emergency number which we'll come to, but let's listen first to our viewer's question.
Posso parlare in italiano in un altro paese al 112.
And this is one of the problems, the language. Can he speak Italian? How does it work?
There is a technical system behind these emergency lines that has to be set up, and unfortunately so far Europe hasn't managed to get that, and I think we need it because it would be in the interest of our traditions and languages and in the interest of emergency systems, and it would create more trust for tourism in Europe. So we want to do that definitely. We are dealing with that at the Parliament stage at this moment, and we hope that we can convince the Council to go on.
I imagine it to be a sort of a centre, a hub centre where somebody rings from the public, the 112 number, they come through to representatives from all EU member states, they can talk in their own language, and that operator refers the call on to the other colleague in Bulgaria, for example. Is that how you see it working?
Yeah, but it's not that easy, but it's exactly how we see it, and we want definitely to manage to get it through.
Well, as we said, it's certainly a topical issue now as the Europeans plan for their summer holidays. Andreas Schwab, thank you very much for being on People First today. You can find out more about the EPP and its activities on their website at eppgroup.eu. Until next time, thank you for watching.